It's horrendous. There's no roads. There's no trees. It's just water. There's nothing left. We have one suitcase, really, and so trying to figure out 4 people and a dog out of one suitcase, it's just surreal. When it comes to where we're going to go from here, I guess anywhere but here. I don't see anything to go back to. The firefighters are telling us it's going to be at least 6 months before we see our house again. And frankly, I doubt very much that it'll be that fast.
Nathan.
Hey guys, give me a second. So we're still trying to clean up the mess out here in Western Carolina. Just a quick update. We're finally getting to some of these small towns, man. They're gone. Newland has a population of 700. There's over 200 found in the mud. But worse off, fellas. Give me a second.
Damn, brother. Take as long as you need, man.
I want y'all to understand something. The 82nd Airborne always has a brigade tasked for relief efforts anywhere in the fucking world within 10 to 12 hours. I want y'all to understand that they've been stood down because of fucking Israel and all this other bullshit while Americans are dead. We're in the same goddamn state. The National Guard wasn't even activated till Sunday. Our state fucking government and our federal fucking government are nowhere to be found for Scots-Irish, Anglo-Americans on the fucking mountains, okay? Our fucking military is too goddamn busy being deployed to a fucking war zone that isn't between us. That has nothing to fucking do with us. The Tennessee State Guard was deployed 2 days before the hurricane hit. Our entire fucking military, they're not allowing anyone out on leave. No one can take leave to go find their dead kids. But they're being stood up to go to goddamn Israel. So if you guys don't make something out of this goddamn movement right now on the backs of our fucking dead kids in the mountains, I don't know when the fuck we are.
All right. Well, if people can hear me, I hope so. I think so. But I'll check the comments, and if anybody can let me know, that would be great. So that's the first section there from Nathan Greene, as you heard, in Appalachia. And he said he was in Western North Carolina, I think. So, when I heard his voice first, I was listening live into a sort of virtual radio station on X, what used to be called Twitter. I think we probably all know that by now. And it has live spaces on it. And a lot of people who are increasingly finding that we all share something in common. We all, to say that we lost faith in our governments is a huge understatement. We have been completely ostracized. We've been completely discarded, not just unrepresented, but misrepresented by our supposed governments. We all know, essentially, that our own governments, they not only are corrupt, but they are actively malevolent towards us. So Do you know the way, I don't know who came up with this phrase first, but you know that phrase, never let a good crisis go to waste. But I mean, it really does seem now as though it's, let's see if we can create crises and also have all these simultaneous other disasters or man-made, well, I'll just say man-made disasters as well, like referring to wars and whatever else, you know, financial and collapses and you know, the fall of nations all happening around the world, all these different problems that we divide all our resources among, and then, you know, for perfectly coincidental reasons, but not coincidental, like we all suspect that they're able to, I'm going to say this, manipulate weather. We all suspect they're able to, if not create storms, exacerbate them, let's say. Then they sweep in and they say, you know, like, was it Ronald Reagan who said, oh, the worst words ever to hear from the government is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But we know now, like, that they're not here to help. They're here to make things worse. They're here to make sure people are suffering. And as you'll hear later, you know, maybe I won't say all the things he says, but I suppose it'll reverberate when you hear it, that these organizations, these extremely powerful conglomerations of corporations, are here then to swoop in ready, you know, and they even write about it. You know, they're even advertising, just like, say, in captured territories over there in the Middle East. I won't maybe touch the live wires too soon, I'll leave the first 5 minutes. Well, look, we're into it now anyway. But, you know, already in some of those captured territories, we see that several months beforehand, they were advertising new luxury apartments in, you know, territories they don't even own. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, the what they call the flow of the mind, the mens rea, the guilty conscience, the malice of forethought is already there. And we see exactly the same thing here in the Appalachia area. In both of these states, but I think it's not probably, I'm guessing it's the same in Georgia and anywhere else, but particularly what I'm hearing about, and I'm getting the impression that the most affected are North Carolina and Tennessee. And certainly the two governors of those states are people who you kind of only have to hear their names and you're going to go, oh, yeah, I don't even need to pop off to Wikipedia to have a quick look at a certain section there to see about their early life. They're both called Joshua. One of them is called Joshua, you'll never guess, Stein. Now, maybe he's got it as Stone, but, you know, come on, you know, who are we fooling? You know, I mean, we've all been at the noticing game for quite some time. And the other guy is called Shapiro. You know, I mean, I think we're all familiar with Ben Shapiro, and we know exactly what he is as well. These people pretend to represent us. You see the commonality. They pretend to represent us, but they don't. And it wouldn't be so bad if they were just ordinary, you know, let's say capitalists or fat cats or greedy pigs who just want to suckle off the resources of tax dollars for themselves. You could actually consider that to be neutral. No, these people are actively malevolent, you see, and they enjoy profiting off people's demise. That's the thing. So it's 100. It's negative 100 rather than just, you know, getting no value for your dollar. Anyway, look, that's by way of kind of introduction. That sets it out there. I mean, look, there's probably still people who haven't a clue what I'm talking about, but look, maybe they'll hang on and maybe they'll hear or see a few things. And I intended to play something in the background there just as things to look at us while I was talking. But look, the way I see it is that I'm better off just getting something out here, and that's, you know, doing something rather than slaving over something, trying to make it perfect and rendering it and editing it and all this kind of stuff. But I'll pause there anyway, and I'll say hello to a few people who've joined already anyway. And so it's good to see. Thank you, Lily Gazoo and Stephen Crumley. Very good to see you there. So Lily says that she's reading on Zero Hedge, links to X and Instagram. Something wicked, she says. And Stephen says, cheers, John. I'm about to start mowing and going to listen while I do that. All right. Well, that's great. I don't know how many weeks or days even you might have left to mow the grass. But maybe where you are, it's still going to be quite dry or even warm on through October. He says, if y'all have ever wondered what I sound like, it's these folks here. Right. Yes. Well, you did say you had a Southern accent and or an Appalachian accent even. And so you say it's these folks here. This is like 100 miles away from me. Wow. Okay. And I'd be interested to hear if you can tell me, if you consider yourself to be hardly affected at all compared to these people, or some of the footage that you might have seen there in the opening 5 minutes or so, or a few minutes anyway. So you say we have 3 guys from our shop working in Asheville doing the cleanup. Okay, that's great to hear. And you say, now I know this name. Why do I forget who he is? Oh, Ram Emanuel, he said. Right. So thanks. I should have read on. Ram Emanuel said, never let a crisis go to waste. And again, like nobody needs to go looking up Wikipedia to find out what his early life was. Even if I forget who he was, I can picture his idyllic formative years. So Stephen says, and John, Matt said to tell you hey and cheers, and he's listening. He just can't comment because he's not signed into the YouTube app on his phone. Well, that's great to hear that he's listening anyway. Cheers. I was talking to Matt a little bit earlier on X, as we call it. And look, I used to try not to say things like other platform names on YouTube because I did get the distinct impression that they did not like to hear the names of some of their, competitors, even if they're not exactly the same thing. But anyway, I'm going to tell you, I spend more time these days probably on X. And there's 2 main reasons. I get a lot more information there, and I get a lot more unfiltered information, to the point where I hear a lot of people saying, how are they allowing us to see all this? Doesn't make sense. They must want to know what we think about it all. But if that's the case, look, we've moved on to the next stage of the game, and I prefer being in that area of the game because it's closer to truth. They just hope that they can continue to head us off at the pass and divert us along another culvert a little bit further on the stream. But I mean, the metaphors kind of start to break down. Are we getting closer to the river mouth or to the delta or to the edge of the precipice of the waterfall or whatever? But I kind of want to draw back from using deluge metaphors without thinking them through properly. Anyway, as I say, I prefer being over there, and there's also a stronger sense of community because even though there might be some of us who might maybe separated into slightly different camps with regards to certain ideologies or worldviews, we're all aware of one thing, and we're aware of the Rahm Emanuels and the Shapiros and the Steins. We're aware. We're all very distinctly aware, and it kind of almost goes without saying. So, well, in fact, it pretty much does. So it's very nice to be in a place where you can speak. You can imagine. So this is why I encourage people to get over there, because we can speak a lot more freely. Now, I know, I mean, I don't know if Jack's listening or not, or if you'll hear this in the playback, but I know like that he is apparently able to, talk quite stridently or openly or plainly about these things, which I'm still, I haven't said certain words. I haven't said a word yet, I'm pretty sure, that begins with the 10th letter. And I'm going to try and, but I'm going to avoid for a little while. I don't know. We're always guessing, feeling our way around the dark, figuring out what's listening and how long it listens for and how intently it listens. And, with what level of artificial intelligence is it listening with? But a lot of people seem to say that if you leave your choice words until later, it might give up and go somewhere else, or allocate resources to somewhere else. I don't know. But, I just think it's best to kind of, gently get into these things. But if I play I've got 4 segments of the video that I opened with there. And I better say before I go any further that video, I don't know how long ago he created this name or thought of it, but he's got 2 names. The guy who created that video there one of his names is Hellstorm, And the other name on X is Storm_Maker. And I sent him a link to this live stream, so he might be listening right now. And he might even come in to join, because I sent him the StreamYard link. And maybe I'll put the StreamYard link in as a comment. I do not know how to pin comments, which is, it sounds like I'm getting to that point in my life where certain aspects of technology I feel like are getting away from me. But it's not really technology. It's just, what's the procedure or functionality work here? How does it go? But I'm getting older now. I'm accepting that, because there used to be a time where I knew everything about every aspect of technology, and then you just get older, and that's the way life goes. But anyway, I'll put the link to, and I don't do this all the time, or rarely actually, it was only maybe the last couple of times I did this. I'll put the link to the StreamYard, I don't want to say link again, but anyway, I will. So I've put the StreamYard link in there, and that means that if you click that, you can come in and participate, talk live. You don't have to open the camera. I haven't opened my camera yet. But that's all just your voice. And so if the maker of that video there, he was listening live to the same one, sort of virtual radio station as I was listening to. And I can't say the name of it because it is on a sort of watch list kind of thing, right? For people who think, oh God, no, it's literally another whatever, you know what I mean? But they're the most reasonable and friendly and decent and honest and noble and, did I say righteous yet? And sincere and authentic people I have spoken to in a long, long time, but such a large collection of people like that. It's a great sense of belonging and camaraderie and a knowledge that, okay, so I'm not alone. And there's a growing mass of people. And, I've been listening for the last few weeks, maybe a couple of months. And so when this fella, Nathan Greene, came in and he was giving a report live, I mean, it really felt like we were at the center of history in a way, in the same way as you might listen back to a radio station, or it could be an AM radio station, let's say, where Art Bell was going late into the night and somebody called in. And, somebody recorded it on tape and later it's put onto the internet. And you feel like, I mean, that must have felt electric when you heard that live. And so I felt like I was at one of those points in time. I might say the name of it later, but if you follow me on X, you will be able to find it quite easily. And I do a sort of my own little radio station every Saturday, and I do it from a slightly alternate account. I've put a few links to it in recent community notes. But if you come over to X anyway tomorrow, you look in the description of this, you might be able to find me. And if you search for Eternal Extrapolations over on X, you'll probably find me. But I suppose I'll say as well, if you search for double E, so EE, and then XTRAPOLATIONS. I had to pause there to see how it was. And also, if you look for Extrapolate Now, so you'll find me that way on X. And I do a chat with whoever wants to come up tomorrow, Saturday as well. That's at 3:15 p.m. US Central Time, which is 22:15 European Central Time. Right. Okay. Sorry for maybe getting off the topic there, but anyone who would like to listen to me a bit more can do so tomorrow and maybe join in. And you can do that here as well. And I should see a pop-up in the screen. But if I'm reading something else or on a different tab, it might take me a while to bring you on stage, as they say. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I didn't go any further without giving credit to the fellow who also recorded Nathan's voice. Got a bit more of it than I did. He must have been recording the whole show. And he put that excellent footage to it. And it was only when I heard Nathan Greene's voice that I realized, this is much more serious, as in the damage and the devastation is not an overstatement. It really is devastation. Everything pretty much has been washed away, destroyed. And so, I've heard people saying that it's a storm. Look, I'd better pause for a second and put some visuals so you can, see what we're dealing with here. This is just some footage of some of first of all, you see some men there who are taking stuff by a shallow boat. And people don't just need money, because money is kind of useless. Like, where are you going to go? You can't get anywhere anyway. And even if you could, all the supermarkets, all the grocery stores are either washed away or full of mud, and the shelves are emptied anyway for whatever reason, Um, best not to speculate, but it's probably, a bit of both, and one of the obvious being, ransacked. So there's some, there's one of the places where people are bringing food to a central location and then handing it out. So a lot of people are driving cross country and bringing stuff in their trucks, in their jeeps, in their 4x4s, pickup trucks, and even I heard one guy listening to him on the radio station kind of thing that I was listening to on X, the Live Space News, saying, look, I'm in California, I only have a Prius, but like, can I drive out with water or food, or what should I bring, or clothes, or what do people need, And then, I think maybe a lot of you have heard that the official, I don't want to say, if you say a certain 4-letter acronym that starts with Foxtrot, that gets you a blue note. But I don't mind, but I just want to try and keep this going for a little while, But anyhow, yeah, they're being turned around by officials who don't want to explain why. They just say, get out of my area. You're interfering with my control of the operation. And the people who claim to be in control of the operation, of the rescue, or the bringing relief, like in the form of these food packages or blankets or dry clothes, even anything. I mean, you can imagine they would need medicines. People have been maybe without food for, and I'll just pause there to say, just total look, the response was planned, and they're not coming to help. And what you're looking at there, of course, is, I'm not sure the term, maybe it's called strip mining. And there's supposed to be many minerals there. Lithium, I've heard, could be other type of minerals, cobalt, maybe, whatever that mineral is that makes phones vibrate. And there could be other minerals that are used for semiconductors and whatnot. So yeah, and you can understand as well why they'd want these kind of Appalachian people off the mountains, because they want to get everyone into cities, and they don't want people living independently, and they don't like people who are aware of their history and where they came from and how they are connected to each other. And as I'll say his name there, there's Southern Nordic talks about, like, my mother is across the holler there, or over that side of the mountain, or this kind of thing, and they have a connection to the land. Well, they want to literally uproot them. They want to deracinate them. They want to extirpate them. I learned those two words, along my travels. And those words are used by them, and they're in the Bible, I think, as well, because, like, what it really means, like, is to pick people up by their roots, and roots, are traces in the ground. And they want to disconnect people entirely from the land, which disconnects them from their history, their shared culture, their heritage. And it's no coincidence that a tree with roots is used as a symbol to represent your family lineage, your family tree. So that's what they want to pluck up and cast aside, and then plant anew. These people are human farmers, and they don't like that crop, and they want to get rid of it. So yeah, I mean, all the symbology and the metaphor is real and actual as well. It's just a way of understanding it in a sort of a deeper way. So what's coming up there, like, is what Nathan Greene was collating on his X page, of where you can send packages and goods, and people are using Amazon. And I think some people have seen Amazon or Amazon drivers, some of them go to great lengths to go past certain things. So look, who knows if all of that will survive or whatever, but I mean, it's on somebody's dry lawn there, even though the house might have been damaged, but there you are. So people are sending Amazon stuff. So this is people helping people, but they don't want that. They want people to be dependent on the government, and to think that the government is the only people who have not only the ability, but the right to deal with anything or to officiate over stuff. And they certainly don't want people to think, yeah, listen, if the government didn't come down here for several days and we helped ourselves, why are we paying tax? And furthermore, what do we even need a government for anyway? They absolutely do not want people to go down those lines of thinking. You see what I'm saying? Because people who are engaged in an activity like this, like helping each other, and who are cursing those supposed elected officials who are not just useless, but hindering and hampering their efforts, they might say, well, actually, it's not just that we would be no worse off if we got rid of our government, but we would be almost immeasurably better off. Like we would be so better off. It would be, by comparison, almost like a little heaven on earth. If we could get the government off our backs, the Shapiros and the Steins, our supposed governors, who are supposed to be representing us. I say us, but put myself in the position of the people from Tennessee or North Carolina. If these people were no longer quote unquote governing us, then it would be like we weren't being held underwater anymore, right? We wouldn't be drowning because we could at least float then with our heads above water. This person wouldn't be actively trying to drown us, you see, let alone come out with rescue boats and pull us above board, pull us on board. Imagine if a lifeguard was employed to look out for anybody who was drowning and then quickly paddle out to you and push you underwater to make sure you couldn't swim ashore. That's what these people are doing. So I'll pause there and just see if there's any other comments here from you. What you're seeing on screen there are some of the verified addresses. As far as I could see, that Nathan did sort of co-sign these or verify that he agrees with these, that these are places you could send what you think people might need or what they're saying they need. If you go on X and look at what people are saying, or go to Nathan Greene's page, search for Nathan Greene and you should be able to find it. Greene is how you spell his surname, with an E at the end. And Nathan, Nathan, Nathan. So, you'll probably get some up-to-date information on his page, but you got to bear in mind, if he is, in the thick of it there, he might not always have cell service, and he might not be in a position at all to be able to say, right, whatever I'm doing here, bailing water out or helping people or doing whatever he's doing, I better stop here and go on social media. And you know how time-consuming it is anyway to just post things and collate pictures and type a message and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, Stephen says, our town is completely, I'll put this on screen here. He says, our town is completely unaffected by the floods themselves. And we are downstream about 115 miles or so. Our water levels are around 5 foot higher than normal, but that still is a heck of a lot. So I'm not doubting what you're saying. It's just I'm not sure how 5 foot higher water levels means you're unaffected. But maybe it means it hasn't breached any banks of your rivers or other things you have there, and there's no roads flooded or gutters jammed or that kind of thing. So it sounds like you've got very good capacity for coping with a lot more than what you would like to have as standard rainfall. Like, a lot of people would consider 6 inches of rainfall to be a lot. So anyway, he says, our water levels are around 5 foot higher than normal. We got like 16 inches to 20 inches of rain during the storm. Well, that's, like, most people would consider that highly significant amount of rain. Like, even if it was over 2 days or 3 days, 16 to 20 inches of rain. So, that's 4 inches short of 2 feet. Anyway, what next? I put that in there. Duh. Stephen says to me, John, search for Chimney Rock flood damage, and you'll see another town that got completely wiped off the land. They say a 16 to 20 foot deep mudslide or flood wall that went directly through downtown. Yeah. Well, look, I won't push my luck and search for anything now because I've got a Twitter or X window open that I want to read to you as well. And X always seems to start chewing up processor time. It's just for $40 billion, like you really could have done as good as a job with $400. And I'm not, well, I'll give them $4,000, right? For $4,000, you could have definitely come up with as good as a website. That's not an exaggeration. Now, of course, you might say he's paying for the amount of eyeballs that are on it. Yeah, I guess that's the case. But it's surprisingly bad. But nonetheless, the good thing about it, as I say, is that there is, shadow banning and that kind of thing, and there is, you do get struck down eventually. But you if you haven't used it and you think, oh no, it's all right, like I can use YouTube or I can use, whatever, right? No, X is where you need to be right now in this point of history and time. I mean, like people, I give up when people kind of go, oh no, like I also I have too much to do, or I do this, or I already do something else here, or whatever. Like I just drop it because I know you can't convince people. Like, if the more you try and convince people, the more they kind of go, nah, I'm not interested. But I'm telling you, that's where you need to be. Anyway, Vinco says, do not go for a swim in that pool. No. And there's Doc. He says, cheers. Cheers, Doc. And Stephen says, exactly, no breaches of dam or river banks. Okay, gotcha. Well, look, it goes to show that you actually, I'm not criticizing anywhere else in the US. I remember the first time I flew into Los Angeles and I was looking down and, for me, it really was Tinseltown. But looking down, I saw all the storm drains just like I had seen in Terminator 2. And I went, oh my God, because I could see it kind of snaking through the city. And I went, wow, it's real. I mean, what did I think it was going to be? But it was real. Like we absolutely... I come from a country that does nothing but rain, and people think, "Oh no, it's lovely. I love the rain. I hate the heat." No, you don't. You think you love the rain, but you don't. I live in a country that, yeah, I mean, technically it's terra firma or it's dry land, but it's rarely, if ever, dry. I live underwater. I live in a sunken land of Atlantis. And it's always rain. It's like, like they say, the Eskimos have 50 words for snow. Like we probably have 100 words for a different kind of rain, and it gets inside your bones and it's wet all the time. And it's not nice. And I hate it. So when people tell me they love rain, I kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah. So I get mighty sick of it. But you would think in a country where it rains all the time, that we would have anywhere near the kind of provisions that any other country has. Like even countries like Spain and South Africa have better storm defenses or water drainage facilities. But every time we have any kind of weather, it always comes as a shock. And then, of course, every sort of 5 to 15, no, I won't exaggerate, right? Every 2 to 3 years, when we get a summer where it doesn't rain for 10 days to 14 days, and the temperatures get to maybe like 75 degrees Fahrenheit, like we're talking like barely into the 20 Celsius, right? People start going, oh my God, it's too hot. And they actually literally start saying the government needs to do something about the weather, right? Because people are dying out here of dehydration, right? So that's the kind of irritation that I have all the time. And then people are going to go, oh God, we're going into 70. We're going to have dry, arid desert regions, Ireland is going to be like the Gobi Desert in 10 years' time if the government doesn't pass new legislation, right? Most of the idiots here seem to actually believe that. Right? Anyway, I've gone off the beaten topic here, beaten path. I've gone off the topic, but you might understand why I grew to be less enamored with my fellow human beings of whatever nationality they are. Anyway, Jack says, I would use X, but I'm banned from the internet. No joke. Jack, okay, I'm not going to ask you again, right? Do what you want to do, but I'm telling you, right? Lily says, X has many people who are on scene or close. Hearing from others doing search and rescue. I can't believe insulin has to be delivered by mule days later. Wow, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Of course, those kind of medications where people do go into some kind of anaphylactic shock or something similar like that, or they start shutting down in a kind of fainting way. Stephen says, yeah, Southern Nordic is local to me. He fishes the same rivers. I see. Okay. Yeah, right. I sometimes I feel like, well, I don't want to be giving people too much intel about, you never know who's listening. But at this stage of the game, who really cares anyway? Stephen says, I've never met him in person or anything. Okay. You guys are lucky with those temperatures. It was 83 degrees here today and in October. Yeah, look, I mean, I'll say this, right? I understand that when the temperature starts going into the 80s and then the 90s, it's not pleasant, and 100s even. Of course, it's not pleasant to be doing physical labor outside. That ideally you'll be working in, closer to room temperature. Like, I mean, what would you say, like 65 to 70 or so? Like something from 18 to 21 Celsius, something like that. You don't want to be having higher ambient temperatures than that if you're doing heavy physical labor. But any colder than 65 is not for me. Right? Okay, I was born in the wrong country. All right, I'll swap with you anytime you want. Okay, so if you don't like 83 degrees, I'll swap with you. All right. Doc says 93 here in River Valley. I live in hell. Well, okay. And I live in the frozen tundra. Well, not quite frozen. No, as I say, I live in a Neptune underworld, right? Okay, so it's just different variations of hell. But listen, we could all go on a busman's holiday, maybe, right? And do a bit of a swapperoonie, right? See how the other half lives. Lily says, meanwhile, Tina Peters, former Mesa County, Mesa. I remember learning what Mesa is, and I think like Mensa is table, but Mesa, I think it's related to that, but I think it's got something to do with a dark thing as well. I forget, but anyway, maybe it's just flat plane in Spanish, but I can't remember. Anyway, Mesa County, Colorado clerk received 9 years in prison for saving a copy of the 2020 election results. Ooh. Oh, thanks. We're still not allowed to say that word or refer to anything, or we're implied that anything might have happened to them. But anyway, look, as I say, I'm fully prepared to have to take a break. Or, I mean, what's the point in having this channel if I don't just do what I'm going to do anyway, So you're always at risk, and you can't be saying, oh, I have to hang on to my little channel, But anyway. When the Secretary of State demanded all data be erased. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'll say this just in response to that, but we'll get back on topic now in a minute. I have worked for, and this is not an exaggeration, like some of the most absolute, hands down, no contest, evil global corporations in the world. And there was a period in time when they said to us, it's no longer going to be an excuse to say you didn't get the email, you didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And like I received quite literally several thousand emails every day. And I had to have a very sophisticated way of sorting it into all these different folders and arranging the folders in order of priority, and then looking at all the different folders and all this sort of stuff. And if I would say, listen, I'm really sorry. If you thought it was important, you should have just walked over to my desk and just checked that I knew, because I just didn't know. And we all know here that we are inundated with emails, and it's ridiculous. But I knew as well at the same time they were hoping that I'd missed the email so that they could try and open a disciplinary hearing on me. And this is always their plan. But you kind of have to sometimes pretend and not call them out and all this sort of stuff and go along with the thing. And feign politeness, It's always false smiles that everybody wears. And so they went from that. Then when I had my system down pat, where I'd kind of go, right, you sent me this email, just confirm you did send me this, good. I have a few witnesses already, everything right, great, okay, we know where we are now. And then when they'd say to me a few weeks later, here, listen, I never told you to do that. And I'd say, oh, yes, you did. Here it is. here's the read receipt of you reading my email back to you saying, I've got what you told me. I'm going to do it. I'm just doing it now. And now I've done it, and read receipt from you. And there it all is. Right. And then they brought out a rule saying, from now on, you're not allowed to keep your emails longer than 2 weeks. You have to delete them. And it was a disciplinary if you didn't. And I just said, no, I won't be deleting my emails. I know why you want me to. I won't be. And but a lot of other people complied, and they hope that if enough people comply, then it becomes a de facto rule. And then when they get rid of enough people and bring in enough new hires that they don't know how it used to be, and that's very analogous to the way that it goes with society. They age out the old people who used to remember the old ways, and then new people are born and they think they know it all, and whatever happened in the past is irrelevant, just like I once thought. And they never knew it to be any other way. And history is boring, and who cares about that? And on it goes. Vingel says, I only thrive between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius. Well, that's about all right. And Norway, I doubt, is going to give you that, other than in summer. Stephen says, me and Jack are out here making molten steel puddles in August when it's 105 degrees. Well, look, I'll tell you this, right? Yeah, anywhere near 100 or over 90. If you're welding and doing that kind of stuff, don't get me wrong. I don't want to do that because I would not find that pleasant in the least. So not trying to, in case you thought I was saying what you're doing, what you have there is easy. I'm definitely not saying that. With 100% humidity. Okay, that's going to add to the hell of it as well, of course. And like 85% dew point, lol, with a hood on. But I bet Jack don't wear gloves either. I can't, lol. All right, okay. Okay, lads, you are living in hell. Okay. I don't think anyone will beat that. And Vingo says, I thought a mesa was a ridge with a plain or summit. Okay, I think you're probably right there. Maybe it's a ridge with a plain, so it's an elevated plain that's flat, maybe. So maybe it's a tabletop. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. Doc says, we're just used to seasonal changes in the south. The last couple of decades have been modified. We here in the south should be in the 65 to 70 degrees by now. Well, look, I know what you're saying, but it could be just an Indian summer type thing, as I say. But I'm not going to tell you that I know your climate better than you do, your typical climate. Lily Gazoo says, Mesa is table land. And Doc says, I can't wear gloves. No way, Stephen. And raised flat land, in other words. Okay, so high plains. Okay, high tabletop. Stephen says, band name False Smiles. Oh, okay, great band name. Right, well, hopefully it gets across exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, everybody wears masks in public, and the people in corporate world, I'll give you another one then if you like that. I used to call them saccharin smiles because, saccharin is artificial sugar. And it's artificial sweetness. They're saccharin smiles. Everything is artificial. And to me, that's hell. When nobody is sincere, everything's inauthentic. Everything's false, fake. And everyone knows it as well. So you're like, well, who's all this performance for? Like, who's fooling who? But that's the way of a certain culture that I recognized. It's not corporate culture. It's who culture. That's what I was detecting all the time. That's what I was objecting to all the time. So it just goes to show I was always judging them by their character, even though I didn't know it was them. Same with other people as well, I was deducing who they are. And Vingel says, Stephen, I once came up with a band name, Unsmiling Bastards. Right, I'm caught up with there so far. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to play you the second installment of a video made by this guy called Hellstorm, aka, and you'll find him on Odyssey. This is where I found the full video, and I found him on X then. So on Odyssey, he's called Hellstorm, and on X, he's called Storm_Maker. And he made this video with Nathan Greene's words, and he put together this footage, which, again, really got across to me. Well, as I say, devastation is a word that's overused, but it's not exaggeration here in this case. So, okay, here's part 2. It's going to be, what is it? Just under 4 minutes, and then I'll come back to you. Cheers for now.
Damn.
Well said, and yeah, that's absolutely egregious, man. That makes my blood boil as a Canadian. That absolutely is fucking wrong. It's a travesty. And just say this, the founding fathers took action for far less than that.
I mean,
It sucks. Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
man.
It's one thing. It's one thing to have an incompetent response. It's one thing to be a little slow, but this is beyond incompetence. It's beyond negligence. This is what they want. This is the outcome they want. It was known on day one that night. I know for a fact through HF and Viper systems, we were reporting out there's no way to get to these towns. We need helos. We hadn't got the goddamn helos until yesterday. It's been private citizens. It's been private pilots. Our state and our feds haven't done a fucking thing until today. It's unbelievable, man. They knew on the ground Thursday night into Friday. They knew the situation. These small towns, the volunteer rescue squads and departments, they were cut off. They couldn't get to these little small towns. No one gave a shit about the towns. We had one Chinook who apparently, it turns out, I don't know this for a fact, but this Chinook disobeyed orders on Saturday to land at Lee's McRae. And I'm sure the federal government is all over their ass for disobeying commands and bringing in volunteered goods. But that was the only military helicopter we saw until yesterday. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is day 7. Day 7. We had the 82nd Airborne inside of Haiti within 10 goddamn hours of their earthquake. We were in Puerto Rico within 5 or 6. But we can't get across our own state.
Yeah, just real quick. I think Nathan brought up a very valid point, and it should be a concern for all of us. If some of this doesn't radicalize you and doesn't bring up an inner rage to the point where you're gonna get off your fucking ass, white man, and actually do things, I don't know what will. And I really do appreciate Nathan coming up here, wearing his heart on his sleeve, and showing his passion for his people. 1,000 more Nathans. We need 100,000 more Nathans. And to the listeners who heard that man's heart on his sleeve, if it doesn't bring you to a point of fighting back tears or anger, I don't know if you have a heart, and I don't know how committed you are to loving a race and fighting to save it.
And here's the thing about rebuilding.
Right. Well, I see now I have somebody joined me, and we'll see who he is now. His name is Frankie Payne. So, Frankie, if you're able to hear me, then I'll bring you up now in a second. I'll just say Lily. She has a message here saying, I was out on the farm in eastern Washington, that's Washington State, and did all the hard labor outside before 11 a.m., then have breakfast, work on something else until the sun drops lower, and the breeze comes up. Well, like, Lily is a very hard worker, and I won't flatter her too much, but I mean, probably around the time I discovered her channel a little bit before 2020, and then when I saw how she dug down and dug deep into her character and didn't fall to pieces, like I think I I guess in a way I did, you know. But she just said, no, I'm just gonna go wherever I can find work, and I'm gonna deal with every piece of adversity as it comes, you know. So there was a good bit of fortitude evident there in her character. So what she's saying there doesn't surprise me. Right, Frankie, I will go to you now, and I'm not sure who you are, but hopefully you have something good to add. I'll put you on stage now, but just it's only your voice.
Hello, how's it
Frankie.
going, John?
Hello, Frankie. I think I do recognize your voice. I've heard you on a live stream before.
Yeah, probably Suzanne's or Lady Aero Saladin's or
That's right.
Mousie's.
Yes.
Probably one. Yeah, one of them. How's it
Yeah.
going?
If you don't mind me asking, are you in the United States?
Yes, I am.
Well, we don't have to get any more specific than that, but what's your thoughts on
I
what
don't
you
mind. I mean,
see then?
I'll tell you, I'm in California. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, the weather is the only good thing around here. So, but yeah. What were we gonna ask? Sorry about that.
No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, it's good to know for everyone that you're in California, because everyone has their ideas of how it is there.
Mhm.
And I think maybe you have said as well, like, yeah, in that one little thing there, that, well, the only good thing is the weather.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a pity about the people and the politics that has been put onto it. But
Yeah.
what have you seen about the floods there in the Appalachia region, Tennessee and North Carolina, and maybe a bit of Georgia and elsewhere? Have you seen much of the footage? What do you think of it?
It's horrible, and I think it's been around for a long time. You know, you probably know this better than I do. I'm not too shabby on this subject, but HARP, HARP and all those weather modifications have been around for a long time, since the Vietnam War, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, what they used, back in the day to completely flood it. So nothing surprises me, and that's not going to be on mainstream news, is it? They're not going to show that on mainstream news.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure everybody listening can remember the name of it. I'm not sure if it was Operation Popeye or something like that. But yeah, I think, they did hint at that during, I remember reading some magazines, even in the 80s, about the Vietnam War. And yeah, as you say, the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I never even really, as a kid, thought about weather as a weapon. I just thought that it was the things like the military hardware, the M60s mounted on the side of helicopters, and the napalm. I thought, well, like, that's all you need. Why wouldn't you just use that? Why would you want to flood people out? But maybe even more so over in the domestic setting, that they don't necessarily want people to. Well, they definitely don't want people to know that they're attacking their own citizens. And anybody who would suggest that, then they have put it about enough where they kind of go, oh, those crazy conspiracy theorists. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all by design. They create these things and have these categories that they can put you in. Well, once you come out, I have a saying: paranoia is suspicion waiting to be verified. I'm not paranoid. I'm just suspicious.
Yeah, I like that. Waiting to be verified. And the thing is, you're not really at the races these days unless you're highly skeptical of everything you're being told from any official source.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe a fucking single thing that they say on the left or right. To me, they're all the same. I have a saying: if voting really mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. They're all part. It's one big club, and we're not in it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm just looking at a few more comments here on screen now. Jack here, Doc Holiday, says that he used to live in California, and it's a crazy place. The last time I was over there, unfortunately, was a long time ago. I have to say, I actually kind of don't want to say how long ago it was, but it was actually roughly 2 decades ago, right? So it's so long ago that I wouldn't recognize the place now. I just thought it was a lovely place. I was on Santa Monica Beach and
That's where I live.
Venice Beach.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
oh,
live
do
in
you?
Santa Monica. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah.
And so, are there still a lot of homeless there? And all kind of,
There's
yeah,
always, as you've probably seen, there's always been homeless and stuff. Even on the promenade, it's not bad. It wasn't bad back then. They weren't crazy and going and off and stuff like that. They were just there. Struggling. And now it's not as bad as people make it out to be. because in Santa Monica it's a bit different with the police and stuff like that. They don't really allow encampments and stuff like that. They go up. You don't see that around Santa Monica. If they're there, they're only there for probably like maybe a fucking day and they're gone. So that's what's at least good about that. I'm not too far from like West LA, so like there's a place on the West LA border where it used to be just right like literally if you crossed the street, it was like you walked into West LA, and on the other side, you're in Santa Monica. The other side, there's just huge encampments. But because Los Angeles had a different policy than Santa Monica, they couldn't, take them away. So they were there for probably, I want to say 5 years. And now Gavin Newsom just, strangely enough, has started cleaning up all over the homeless, because he wants to get in the good books of everybody. That's all by design. But there's been a lot of more from speaking. Personally speaking, there's been a lot more home break-ins, dog nappings. And I'm a dog owner and dog lover. That's very scary. A lot of dog nappings. A lot of burglaries. A lot of I don't really want to say like too much homeless people, but there has been like quite a few homeless people which I've seen just going absolute ape shit. Now Venice Beach during the pandemic for a while was just a huge freaking shanty town, and I mean a shanty town. It was on the news. A guy went down, just a vigilante. They never got caught. Walked down and just had enough and just shot one of them, and just they never caught him. And there was I think maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 months ago. Not one but two on the Venice canals. A woman got attacked, beaten, and raped by a Venezuelan, and she went into a coma, and unfortunately, she passed away. And another one, thankfully, is still with us. But that's the type of stuff that's going on now. That's in LA County. That's on Santa Monica. So as you said, it's a beautiful place, but thankfully the police still here. It's not as bad as it is, just a few blocks over, as they say.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I don't mean to be flippant, but it sounds like the all part and parcel of living in a big city. Like I think it was that mayor of London guy said about whatever attacks or things would happen in London.
Oh,
Same idea.
did you hear that about the acid attack? What was it? 2 days ago that happened. He hasn't come out and condoned. I mean, he doesn't condone any of it. I mean, my dad's from Yorkshire. He's near Bradford. I mean that town, as you know, was completely fucked. It's Muslim, all Muslim now. It's all by design, and it's really sad to see. And I don't want that to happen to Ireland at all. Because Ireland's such a small country. It's what, not even 7 million the population, if that.
Yeah. Oh well, no, I don't think it's well. Who knows what it is now? But until very recently, the population of the Republic of Ireland was about 3.5 million, and now it's somewhere above 5 million. And I think I heard the statistic recently that 25% of the current population were not born in Ireland. So, as far as that statistic goes, I know other countries like Canada might, by proportionality and in numbers, have it a lot worse, of course. But
what part of Ireland are you from, if you don't mind me asking you?
Well, I'll just say that I was born and grew up in Dublin, or in the county of Dublin, South County, and I avoid the city of Dublin.
Yeah.
I used to be able to walk in and out of the city, but I just don't bother. I don't go there if I can help it.
Last time I was there was 2006. I was 11. You probably heard, if you heard me on the podcast and stuff, you probably heard me, mom and stuff. She's from Crumlin. She was there. What was it? When was she last back home? I was a couple months ago. And yeah, it's quite sad. And you probably hear Suzanne and Paul, what the great stuff they do, and Mousy and Paul Nolan. It's getting really bad over there. And I think what was it yesterday? The axe attack to Romanian attacked. What was it? 3 or 2 Irish lads with an axe.
I don't think I. Well, no, actually, I don't know. The funny thing is, I was thinking about some footage I saw of somebody being attacked by an axe, but I think that was in the US. But I suppose that does illustrate the point that actually, regardless of what the numbers are, they are. It's obviously a very concerted effort. The same thing is happening. There's no country that is better really than any other from week to week. And, I mean, that's by design, because a lot of people might say, I remember laughing because I lived and worked in South Africa for a while. And I remember lots of Americans, especially during the COVIDs, were saying, why
Was
don't
this during
ever...
apartheid? Did you work there during apartheid?
No, but I'm talking about within the last
Oh.
decade.
Oh, okay.
But I remember hearing, especially during 2020, and I was talking to people over in America, of course, like online during it, and we were all trying to figure out like what the hell we're going to do and what's going on. But a lot of Americans were saying, you guys in South Africa need to come over here to America. But I mean, what everybody doesn't or didn't realize then, but maybe they do more realize now, is that like you can be in Appalachia, but you could be anywhere, and you're not safe from your own government. And they're bringing in, especially if you're in any of the southern states, whether it's California, New Mexico, Arizona, or Texas, or Louisiana, anywhere, like they're going to be bringing lots of people, and they've already brought. I mean, the minimum numbers are 30 million, and it's more than that. And so these people are anywhere, and even just the idea that you could be anywhere at any time and then turn around and be unlucky,
At a snap of a finger, basically. And
Yeah.
it's and you're not safe. And no matter how far you run or where you run, it's gonna come. As you say, you gotta have to face your problems face on. Like no matter what, they're gonna come to where you're going. No matter what, if you flee. I hear some people and some English people. So I'm going to Hungary. I'm going to this place. Even in Poland, the so-called base capital of Europe, that's starting to happen now. So so they have having all these pro woke, what do you want to call it, lefty, however you want to describe it, policies that are slowly but surely. It's never an all at once attack, immigration attack, should I say. It's subtle, as not to notice or to bring notice to it, or to alarm the the population. So that's what it is. It's a subtle immigration, and over time, look how it happened in England. It's a perfect example. A subtle immigration that slowly, one people go, oh, it's all right, it's all right. 10 years later, oh, it's all right, it's all right. 10 years later, you just look around, it's not all right. My town's completely fucking Muslim now. Excuse my language. That's what happens. You're gonna look around one day, and it's all gone. And in America, you probably know, it's the border. They're coming. It's like the last call. It's last call now. At the bar, they're all coming in now. They're coming through the border. They're coming through the freaking border. They're coming in like human, beyond human ways, like tens of thousands. What was it? 6-7 months ago, 20,000 Chinese nationals alone came through the southern border through California. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. It is all by design.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And look, as far as it being subtle, maybe you could say that 5 to 10 years ago, but it's no longer subtle. And the only people who like don't notice are the people who will then, when pressed on it, turn around and say, well, it's a good thing. And they don't know why. But then if you press them a bit more, they'll say, well, we did all the colonialism or whatever, even though we didn't, or we did all the other things. And what they are is essentially people who have already died in a corner of their minds, and they think that somebody will tribute them in their death. Wasn't he a lovely fellow? He decided to, give the dark hordes a go of this planet instead. But these people are mentally defeated, and they are. If the European peoples were a body, they would be a cancer that would be cut out. So I don't know whether these people can be saved or helped, because it's it's what they're doing is living in denial, and it's not a state of rationality at all.
They're living in La La Land. They're living in a mirage, a fairy tale. That they're in fantasy land. They don't know, because put it this way, they're all dumbed down, and this can go into the water and everything that and the shit that they're putting in the food. They're slowly but surely, just kill, and the jabs. They're they're dumbing us down with all this Love Island, Jersey Shore, whatever, MTV, whatever the latest new thing. I don't watch TV, so whatever that new stuff, Kardashians, what's going on, that's what the people are obsessed with. All the women look the same. All the men want to do the same thing. The tough times create hard men. Good times create weak men. And that's what
Yeah,
we
that's it. I never
people become
realized.
too soft. That's the plain and simple. The men, particularly the men, have become way too soft, and the first people to sell out is the women, unfortunately. And not all women, 99% of them go. They
Not
start
all, not all, not
maybe.
all. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I never realized that all these things, from Sodom and Gomorrah would be again coming true. But yeah, look, getting back to Appalachia, like, have you seen any footage, or did you see what I showed already here?
I've only seen
Um,
bits and pieces. I probably popped in, what was it,
yeah,
15, 20 minutes ago, so relatively new. I
because it
mean,
was
I
really
know the
only.
Smoky Mountains and Appalachian Mountains. I don't see it. I don't hear anything about what's going on over there.
Yeah, because I don't think that whether it's Fox News or CNN, I don't think that they're showing this properly on. I get the impression, I hear people saying they're not showing it either on right wing nor left wing media, official media, but seeing the footage there that this fella put together, combined with, as I say, Nathan Greene's voice, and you can hear the real emotion in his voice. You understand the scale of what's happening. So what I'm going to do is stay around there, Frankie. I'm going to play part 3, and this is the part where I'm saying stay around but maybe there won't be anything to come back to, because the language that's used in this is, and I'm going to tell people now, the 8 to 10 people who might be listening, this could be the end of my channel, but I'm going to play it anyway, right? There are extremely verboten words used, and yeah, right there, Frankie. So there's extremely sensitive words here used. I won't labor the point, but listen and watch. And I'm playing this now. It's created by a fellow called Hellstorm, based on Nathan Greene's voice, and he doesn't mince his words. So we'll have a listen, and then I'll come back to you for your comments after that.
Sounds good.
All right.
The rumor mill is already on the ground here at the destruction. Okay, it's your typical shit that we've been seeing over the last few years. Residents who still can't find their fucking kids are getting offers, lowball, penny on the dollar offers for their land and houses. And you know who's offering it? Fucking BlackRock, fucking State Street,
Yeah, I'm
fucking
sorry not to be rude.
Microsoft,
Can you hear
and
me? Could you
fucking
turn it up? I
real
can't
estate
really hear.
agencies tied to our Attorney General, Josh Stein, obvious kike, and his buddy in Pennsylvania, is it Josh Shapiro? Shapiro is his last name. They're trying to buy up as
I
much as
can't
they
turn it up
can
anymore.
before we've even found all the kids, man.
Jeez, I can't
And
hear it.
yeah,
It's like I can hear
I got the
tiny.
list for the charities.
It's subtly
I've been
not too
trying to
much.
make a coherent post, but we've been pretty busy. The main thing about that, though, is that the fucking feds are cutting off. They're like trying to ground the only people that are doing the work. And they're trying to reroute everybody's money to the fucking Red Cross and the FEMA. That's not what you guys need to donate to, okay? It doesn't matter about Christianity or paganism or whatever. The truth is, these little towns, their churches are doing a lot of the work. Samaritan's Purse, which, yeah, he's a Zionist fucking guy. Yeah, okay. But Samaritan's Purse is doing all the work. FEMA just fucking showed up, a day late and a dollar short. And like I said, the feds are trying to like hamper this shit. Like it seems intentional to me. I've been doing this shit for 20 years now. It seems intentional. They want the fucking Anglos and the Scots-Irish off the goddamn mountain so they can do lithium mines or whatever the fuck they're planning and bring in 1 million Haitians. That the locals think that. I think that. They think that's why the response is this way. And they're probably not wrong. We don't fucking know yet, but people are getting offers for their land before they've even found their kids. I mean, it's unbelievable. Well, honestly, we're not letting anybody up, at least in my area. So I just made the post with some of the shit that I've been collecting. I'll add it to the top here. There's some places where they're staging where they're accepting like Amazon donations of needed stuff. So you can order it and just change the shipping address to the drop off locations. They get loaded on the trucks and sent up the mountain to us.
Yep.
It's HT. What's going on? Nathan, I just want to say, way to be out there, and thank you for your service. And if you can't give me that information, so I'll be able to share it out there to get some people to support it as well. It's got to be tough seeing that. Yeah, this is and what you said as far as I don't want to get too wonky out there, but if you guys are probably having that gut feeling, I was thinking this whole same thing that you were thinking. The government can do shit like this, and and if you think this timing's just like out of the blue, that a fucking hurricane hits a white area, and they got these guys going over to fucking Israel for fucking Jews, and no one's helping white people, and you got a bunch of fucking spick third worlders fucking going into people's houses and taking their shit. Yeah, the writing's on the wall. So we're at war here, and I just want to say, keep your head up. I know that's got to be really hard seeing fucking dead people, especially our people. But thoughts and prayers go out to you, man. Hang in there, and I'll do whatever I can to help support those families. So if you can, make sure you give me that information when you have it.
Okay. So, yeah. Right, we are live, but anyway, Frankie there said that he couldn't hear anything of the video, at least. Anyway, if anyone could tell me if they could hear that well enough, let me know, because I was playing it from having uploaded it already, pre-uploaded it to StreamYard, and there's nothing. Once you do that, there's nothing you can do with the volume. It is as it is contained in the video. So if anybody else can let me know, were they able to hear that video or not? Now, if they couldn't, right. So Stephen Crumley is saying he heard it all perfectly. So, yeah, Frankie, I think the issue has to be at your end then. Anyway, Frankie's back here, so I'll bring him back up. But if he couldn't hear it, he's not going to be able to make great commentary on it. Hi again, Frankie.
Hey, John. So I saw the bits and pieces at the end of it about the floodgates being open, literally, about the spics and whatnot have you coming in and small hats behind it.
From what I got the gist. You got the gist, yeah.
Yeah, and they are behind everything. Not to go into too much, because I go on.
Yeah, no, we can't. I'm just playing that stuff. I still don't want to, go full, because as Stephen was saying, he made an excellent comment, which I'll put back on the screen again. But he knows the radio station that I listen to on X, and he says he listens to it at work sometimes as well. So we know we kind of, everyone's understands what we're dealing with here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Even though it's a small enough audience here compared to what you're normally used to, everybody here is under no illusions whatsoever about who is behind everything. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's not a joke. I like I said, you probably know how much I go into them and everything. It's not a joke anymore, and I think a lot of people are waking up to it. Actually, John, I think a lot of people really are.
Yeah, I do think we're on the cusp of what you would call like a sort of
great awakening.
Well, not exactly. I don't want to say a great awakening, but what I want to say is a sort of a critical mass of people. That the other people who just simply don't want to, they don't do critical thinking, and they don't want to do critical thinking. And that's the majority of us. A lot of people think, our own people are the greatest people, or the most intelligent, or the most moral people. They're not. And it's always been just that 10% of people. But I think we're getting to that 10%, which might be the critical mass. The others, they'll go along. They go with the flow, to use this kind of deluge or river flowing metaphor. And unfortunately, that's the way it has to be. But we have to wake up as much as of people like you, like everyone listening, who would rather go into the great unknown of okay, we're free, we're in dangerous territory, rather than just live in a place where, okay, it's pleasant day to day, but you have to just put up with an ever increasing level of unpleasantness in every aspect of life they have to deal with. And I don't want, I decided like at least a decade ago, probably 2 decades ago, I can't live that way. And that's not going to be my life. So there are like, it would be like a fate worse than death, this living hell. But I want to then bring this to you. So I'm sharing this on screen now. I'm showing some bookmarks that I made in X. And if you just mute your mic there while I'm reading this out, and then you can come back to me after this, right? So Mythos here, he's talking about, or he's just, I liked the way he put this. He is, I suppose, just reposting and making his own commentary on a post by Chris Martenson, who goes by the YouTube channel name, God, why have I forgotten it? Peak Prosperity. And so Chris Martenson, I think he's a sincere person, but he's got a business model, of course, so you can only trust him so far. But nonetheless, he's taken an interest in this, and I appreciate that. Like the Appalachian flood. And Mythos says, with regard to the government or the federal agencies or the emergency authorities and all their response to it, which is basically to make things worse if they can possibly do that, or thwart people's attempts to help people. So Mythos here says, it doesn't matter if what Chris Martenson describes here is true or not. It's an account of what happened. He says, the relevant matter is that we've come to a place in our country where this is plausible action by our own federal and state government. So, the same government that stood down while riots burned down any city that didn't defend itself in 2020. And then what Chris Martenson then has here, I'll click show more here and just get this up. I'll pause during it and come back to you. So he says, this needs to go far and wide and put pressure on the government to do the right thing and save lives. He says, this evening from a Peak Prosperity member to me, to Chris Martenson, via private message at his site. He says, this person messaged him and says, I can't post this online because it's not quite public yet, but government officials had a town meeting with all of the residents of Chimney Rock and basically told them the town was being bulldozed, bodies and all, and the land was being seized by the federal government. They would not be able to move back, and basically that their homes were the ones, their homes, the ones that were standing, were no longer theirs, and the federal government owned it all. And I don't know what crazy play for land this is, but there's a lot of conspiracy about lithium mines. And let me just tell you, as someone who lived in Charlotte and has friends who live in the area of Western North Carolina, they are not being helped. And this is actually being a stand-down operation by federal government. And then Chris Martenson says, what the heck? That's quite disturbing. Is this first-hand, second-hand, or more distant info? And then this guy says to Chris Martenson, he says, our friend owns an Airbnb in Chimney Rock. They had a town meeting yesterday, and someone from the federal government told them all of those things in the town meeting, but doesn't want the information getting out. Also, they are not picking up the bodies. The stench of the bodies everywhere is insane. And for some reason, the government does not want to pick up the bodies. One pastor of a local church was going to order to door delivering water, and they changed their delivery request to body bags because so many of the homes that they've gone to have needed body bags. We're trying to keep the body count. They're not picking up the bodies, and they don't want to identify the bodies, and they're just leaving them there to rot in the streets, right? So I'll pause there and come back to you, Frankie. So what do you think of that?
Sorry, I was just chewing my food there.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, well, you heard what I said there anyway. Bodies floating in the water, bodies when people go delivering water, they're dead, and they kind of
well, look
actually
what's
what we
happening
need
in
is body
Philadelphia
bags.
and everything. It's not just there; it's everywhere in the U.S. In Philadelphia and Michigan. The water system shit, and we're sending money over to Ukraine and Israel when our infrastructure is basically going to absolute horrid. $300 billion since 1948. I mean, they're putting stuff in our water that's making us idle, that's dumbing us down. And I mean, you probably know this as well as everyone else in this chat, is that the male testicles that they found have what, like 80 to 90% of males have, probably more than that, have plastic in their testicles. So they're putting everything in the food. They're killing us, and cancer rates are going through the roof. Everything is connected.
Yeah. Okay. Let me read out the rest of this here. So Chris Martinson says, I can't even, I'm stunned. This is beyond anything I could have imagined, even very recently. You always pick up and bury the dead. It's what humans do. Sorry, just lost my place there for a moment. He says they are violating every possible custom on purpose. And I think people will understand this as well, because it's not just, people being incompetent. It's very active malice that's been burning for thousands of years. These people are actually engaging in a ritual of sorts as well. So he says, anyway, thanks for keeping me informed. People need to know about this. Well, there you are. Yeah, there you are. Okay. So he says, people need to know about this. Let me know when you'd be comfortable with me posting this to our forums in an anonymized fashion, of course, and this is what we're reading. So then this person who wrote to him says, you can post it in the message boards. It needs to get out. Something evil is going down in the North Carolina mountains. I just didn't want to be identified. Just today, we filled up a trailer for a shelter in Hendersonville, North Carolina, that had no food for tons of moms and babies. All the stores around are empty or locked. All the stores around are empty or locked. In Chandler, North Carolina, 2,000 people haven't eaten anything or drank in 6 days. And I just got an SOS message out for help. I'm trying to tag the Cajun Navy and Operation Airdrop, but people are dying by the minute. So, I mean, that gets it across to you.
Yeah,
the situation
you don't hear
there.
about that on the mainstream news, of course.
No, all you hear is got to go to Ukraine and Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
heard they deployed all those troops before the storm happened, before the hurricane happened, to Israel.
Yes, just a calamity of errors. Yeah, nobody could have seen it coming.
All too convenient, isn't it? And I think, what was it? Don't say if someone wants to correct me. What was it? 40,000 troops. They already said they had in the area, and Israel said they're sending in 40,000 troops. It's funny, the number matches the same amount of U.S. troops. It's all too convenient.
Yeah. We never give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. We always assume now anybody who is not deliberately trying to engage in a delusion with themselves and the media and the government, they will say to themselves, it can't be all the time, every single time, a coincidence. Stephen here says, from the guys who work for the company I do, the smell is mostly horses and animals, etc. They've been in Asheville Sunday evening, and there's only been one body found publicly, at least since then. Well, look, that's still grotesque and terrifying, but if it's animals like horses, I don't like that in the slightest, but it is slightly better than it all being human people.
Thanks for having me, John. And my phone's about to die. I just wanted to pop up and just join you on your chat and everything. And I appreciate it. I'm going to be reconnecting my phone and listening to the back. Thanks for having me, man.
Good man, Frankie. And we'll talk again. Cheers for now.
Have a good one. Okay, thank you.
You too. Right. Thanks for that, Stephen. And no, not at all. There wasn't any bad grammar there. That was good. I appreciate the information. I mean, and it is, I'm just trying to check my moral compass here. Like, I don't want to see dead floating horses either, right? Or animals, right? Or I don't want to think of animals drowning either. But I am glad that it means that, okay, it's not 200 people, or I have that figure now in my head floating down the river, Can I read this? There's a guy who lives in the worst part named Mark Honeycutt, and he's got a YouTube channel and has posted videos. He was a Black Hawk helicopter pilot in the military until a year or so ago. Okay, I'll look into that after the stream, I think, because I don't want to press my luck here. Do you know that sort of way? I don't want to overburden whatever CPU and memory I have, you know, that sort of way. Check his channel out when you get some free time. I will, yes. And he flies paramotors too. Okay, interesting. Lily says, I watched Mark today. Okay. Lily's always on top of stuff. Stephen says, I can't even watch 2 seconds of the videos with animals and stuff with them. It's absolutely excruciating to me. All right. Yeah, look, it means you've got empathy, you know, for other living beings. That's basically it. And we used to think that it was a universal trait or a characteristic or commodity that was shared, endemic in the what we thought was human mind. But I don't think that most of us think that anymore. Anyway, I'll get back to this anyway. Chris Martinson talking to this guy. And no doubt you guys are more familiar. I'm starting to become familiar with hearing the names of some of these places. But anyway, Chimney Rock, I think you might be familiar with that. Maybe you even said that, Stephen. Multiple. Now, here's where we get into where we kind of go, look, this isn't an accident. This is sabotage. But anyway, not going to tell people what they need to think, but I can guess what you do anyway. Multiple truckers have reported having tires slashed. Our friends from Chimney Rock said they have heard multiple stories of people being robbed at gunpoint, making supply runs. 2 people that drove down to Charlotte yesterday and today, one that we helped, said bodies in trees, all over ditches in major roads back. Something weird is going on here in North Carolina. And Chris Martinson says to him, God bless you, let me know if I can help. And this guy then says, someone with a large national megaphone. I don't have a large national megaphone, but this is why I figured I'm going live. I'm not going to hold back on any words. And it's a cumulative effort. I do my part. You guys do your part. And on. We'll make ripples somehow. So anyway, he says, large national megaphone needs to amplify how bad it is. People are now starting to die trapped. And I figured, right, this is Friday. This is kind of the second week of it, really. And then coming into the weekend now. So he says, my town is Operation Airdrop, North Carolina Central Command. They need pilots with planes. And now we are asking just for trucks. People with big equipment are needed, but more than anything, the nation needs to put pressure on Washington to deploy the National Guard ASAP. The 82nd Airborne, I suppose, was begging to go since Saturday, but has been told to stand down. Every fucking Apache we have should be flying rescue missions. Please amplify the message. So it's not like they don't know, but of course, I don't know if you saw there during the week, but the woman, and again, looking at her, you know what kind of a life she had in her early years. She was asked, like, what is FEMA doing to help people? Like, and then I think she was asked a yes or no question, like, will FEMA be going out to help or do whatever, you know? And she went, so we've been introducing directives over the past few years to make our services more inclusive and more equal and equitatious and bring equity to more people and diversity in our staff and all this sort of stuff. Just not answering the question, but answering it in a way that you went, that people listening would kind of go, who understand what they're hearing would go, oh, we're on our own, boys. And it's worse than that. They're engaged in a sabotage operation, you know? So I'll pause there anyway and come back to you there, and I'll just prepare this. So this is the other post that I wanted to read out, but I'll come back to it anyway, right? I am also, of course, checking to see if I'm still live. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to see where I was in the comments. Yeah, okay. So here, Carl says, the whole situation is infuriating. They're actively turning away help while saying there's no money left for us. Now, again, I presume like a lot of you guys are on X, or that you see, like I'm not on TikTok, but maybe some of you guys are, and you might see a lot of the stuff there. Or maybe, you know, on some parts of YouTube, you would see maybe through the short videos or other people you follow, like who aren't big YouTubers, you might see some of these videos reposted maybe from X. And I've seen some of them, but I often think, oh, I've seen what there is to see. And then people like Lily or somebody else might share something, and I kind of go, wow, I did not see that. That's much more illuminating or enlightening about what's going on, but I don't want to say those kind of words with regard to looking at the horrific nature of it all. So it's hard to say. Sometimes I always assume that everybody's seen what I have seen. I've downloaded some other short videos and things like that of people talking about how they were being sent away, but I don't have those preloaded. But I do have a few more of that video that, as I say, I've been playing 3 clips of so far. I have 2 left, and that will illustrate some more. But yeah. Windwar says, John, do you invest in precious metals like gold? I bought gold a year ago at $1,800 and now it's $2,600. I don't, because I just don't have the money to invest. That's the problem, right? When you don't have a lot of money, people say, invest in this, that, and the other, like invest in Bitcoin, invest in gold, or whatever. That'd be fine if you had cold, hard cash, whatever to invest in. If I did have a lot of cash, then I would like to have bought some. And it's always like, if I had bought some last year or 10 years ago or whatever. But I remember before the convids that gold was $1,300 and it went up in the week of the convids to $1,800. And the only reason I knew that was because the radio station that we listened to every day would, for whatever reason, give the price of gold with the news and weather every day, So I went, that's an interesting jump. Things are afoot, and that was around the same time as the price of a barrel of Brent oil, which I think is oil taken out of the North Sea of Britain, or, between Norway and Britain, where there's oil fields below the sea bed. Bottle of Brent oil went down from whatever it was, $80 a barrel, $100 a barrel, down to 0, and then down to something like -100. So that, and I was going, how does that work? Like, they give you $100 and they give you shares in oil, or do you actually have to take the barrels and store them in your garden? I don't know, but I knew things were certainly afoot then. But that's all I can say. And anyway, so it says gold might hit $500 an ounce in the next real economy hitting war. I don't doubt it, and of course, it's an indicator of how things are accelerating. And as Chris Martenson says in his peak prosperity, he says hyperinflation comes along quite slowly and then all of a sudden, all at once, But got to get back on topic here now. So Carl says, we need to ensure that help is directed primarily towards historically oppressed persons. I think that that probably is a direct quote. I would believe it if you told me that it is. And Darren says, I keep saying that everybody needs to demand the surrender of the world leaders into custody. It's not going to happen with just me and a few people saying it. Halfway measures don't work. I agree. And what I would direct you to is a site called, I think it's militaryaccountability.com, but it might be a dash between the two words, militaryaccountability.com. Have a read of the, what do they call it? Maybe an article or a declaration. Declaration is probably the word. And it's people who are ex-military, or maybe still some people in the military, and they are saying, maybe this is going to take a time, but all of us, we don't agree with anything that happened since 2020 and before and up till now, and we demand that everybody resign or don't resign, actually, and we are going to organize courts martial for you all. So have a read of it. Not saying you have to sign it, but maybe if you have a significant rank in the military, you might consider it, or if you're ex-military, add your weight to it if you think that it would do some good, and read it. Even if you're not a United States citizen, even if you're not in the military or previously in the military, read it. That's militarayaccountability.com. So yeah, that would speak to that same sentiment, Darren. Thanks. And Lily Gazoo says FEMA is more concerned about shelters and not accommodating. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but is it people who are? Anyway, doesn't matter. Maybe I'm kind of feeling I don't want to touch every single possible live wire there is, right? We've touched on a few. And anyway, I'm going to, what will I do? I won't go to part 4 just yet. I will read out a bit more of this article now from Ryan Tyre, or this post on X. He says, if you are wondering why citizens are being turned away, let me just check to see. Yeah, I'm just checking to see that I'm sharing it on the screen. So he says, if you're wondering why citizens are being turned away that are coming to help in North Carolina and Tennessee, you'll want to hear my experience as someone who has been doing this as a private citizen for almost a decade. He says, I was able to get into and out of Asheville. We brought food, water, fuel, and other supplies, as well as helped people affected by the floods. But there are reasons why they are not allowing outside help. I cannot confirm the reasons why in North Carolina, but I can tell you the reasons in other storms I have worked. I'll explain below. Let me share with you the first disaster area that I finally realized that this was all about money. In the Florida Keys with Hurricane Irma, after Texas got hit with Harvey, we finished our efforts in Texas and were the first citizen team to make it to Key Largo. The federal agencies had US 1 shut down just south of Key Largo and wouldn't let anyone in or out, even though the road was okay to pass. We explained to them that we had boats, jet skis, food, water, chainsaws, and fuel to bring these people. They didn't care and wouldn't let us in. It was night by that point, and you rarely saw the lights of the vehicles in the distance on the individual keys, meaning the emergency response teams from FEMA weren't even working. It was all quiet. We decided that we would go in anyways. We filled up the boats and jet skis with all that we could reasonably carry and went by water around all their BS blockades and around their law enforcement presence on the water. It was 87 miles by water to get to our first stop, Cudjoe Key and Sugarloaf Key. When we arrived there, we were greeted by a homeowner. For privacy, I won't name him, though we have video, who was elated to see us and all the supplies we brought. His house was in shambles. We started offloading supplies on the shoreline and helped to get them into what was left of his house. During that process, he explained to us that FEMA had set up a command center at a local high school on the island, but that they weren't doing anything to help the residents, not even bringing them water. Instead, he explained that they were driving around using a loudspeaker, telling people to stay in their homes. They weren't even helping the homeowners with supplies. I was skeptical at first while he was telling me all of this, but then he said something that broke my heart. He told us that the people of the Keys were all in despair because they had just seen weeks before the overwhelming support for Texas with Hurricane Harvey by the citizens of this country. He and his neighbors on all of the Keys felt like Americans had forgotten about them completely because at this point, 5 days after the landfall, all they had seen was FEMA and they were of no help. The residents were cut off from the outside world, no cellular, no internet, no way to contact anyone or hear of any efforts to try to help them. The only communication they had was from a local radio station on Sugarloaf Key that was broadcasting on AM to the surrounding keys. The man, after hearing that there were citizens trying to bring them help but being refused entry by federal law enforcement, was visibly upset. He and his neighbors really thought the country had abandoned them. He insisted that we get into his waterlogged truck and that he would take us to that radio station so that we could go live on air to tell the citizens trapped in the Keys that we, the American people, were there to help and that the government was trying to stop our efforts. And that is exactly what we did. After that, we were determined to help as many people as we could, but we were met with red tape throughout the whole process. And throughout the whole process and time we were in the Keys. We were able to talk to some authorities to let us down to the Faro Blanco Resort in Marathon towards the end of Boot Key. This was the same hotel where state and local authorities were staging their personnel, and they were happy to see us. I was able to coordinate several trucks full of supplies to be brought down to the EOC, that's Emergency Operations Center, I guess, in Marathon. I was privy to the EOC meeting, but was informed in that meeting that all of the semi trucks full of food, water, and hygiene supplies were to be turned around and not allowed to be offloaded for distribution by the Emergency Operations Center. The reason they gave us was that these donations were not from companies on their preferred vendors list, and that they would not accept them or give them to the residents of the Keys impacted by the storm. It was at that point that I realized this is all about money. These preferred vendors are getting part of the money being released by the state and federal government for each disaster. In turn, some of the vendors make it on the list because a friend gets them on the list. And in return for getting ridiculously outlandish amounts of compensation for the services they render, they give kickbacks. So accepting outside donations, even though they are on location and can help people now, they would rather let people suffer so they can get their kickbacks. This meeting solidified my resolve to help these people, regardless of what the greedy officials wanted. We were going to feed the lower Keys that were being neglected. I diverted all semi-trucks to the Faro Blanco Resort in Marathon and filled the entire first floor with pallets upon pallets of food, water, and essential supplies, and created a food pantry for residents to come and get anything, however much they needed. From local state troopers to the homeless, all were given wheelbarrows and free rein to get anything they needed. We also delivered supplies down to Big Pine Key. We helped establish the tent city on Big Pine Key. Big companies like Tito's Vodka and Whelan just kept bringing trucks full of everything that was needed. When FEMA finally started handing out boxes of canned goods, limited to one per household, we were filling cars full of food and supplies for people and pets. There is so much more to the story in the Keys and further from there in other storms we worked. The common theme, though, is that the federal government always tries to keep citizens from helping, and the local authorities, the ones that live and work in the area, are always happy to have outside help. I call out to Elon Musk and anyone else who can monetarily help people like myself and those that work with me who have the knowledge and the will to help those devastated by these disasters. Help us sidestep the red tape and get the people the relief they need. We are willing, and we are many, and we are ready. And I better read out these people's names for the record that he has addressed it to. He's addressed it to Sassafras 84. He's addressed it to Hodge Twins. He's addressed it to Elon Musk and Alpha Fox 78. And there's the photographs of what they did and the people. And I did play a montage with these photographs in it earlier, but I want to scroll down here and show you the second response maybe. Elon Musk says on October 3rd, wow, sounds like serious government reform is needed. And 2.4 thousand people, so 2,400 people have reposted that, 21,000 people have liked that, and 226,000 people have seen it, and 819 people, as I speak to you now, have commented on that. But what I would say in response, if I would type there to Elon Musk, I would say, no, the government doesn't need serious reform, or even just reform or whatever, right? The government needs to be completely, it is defunct. It's not just not functioning as it's supposed to. It is functioning completely contrary to what it should be doing. Therefore, reform is not the appropriate action. Retirement of the government completely, and a creation from the ground up of a completely new system that serves the people, I would say, is required. Right, I'll come back to see if we are still live, okay, and see if there's any comments, and then we might have a look at the fourth installment. Right. Did I just sorry? Lily says FEMA is more concerned about shelters. I think no, sorry, that's the last one I did. Lily says FEMA training director says they are concerned about faith-based shelters, misgendering migrant trans women. Okay, that's really what you were on about. What a priority. Yeah. It reminds me of the woman in My Cousin Vinny. I forget her name now, but they talk Marissa Tomei, and they talk about how she won an Oscar for her performance in it, and it was herself and Joe Pesci. He was the Vinny lawyer guy, and he was out shooting deer, and he said, "Are these or going to shoot deer? Will I wear these trousers or this?" And she says, "Do you think that the deer, he's licking or drinking water out of the babbling brook, and then kerblamo, and his brains get blasted out? This little Bambi drinking from the little pond. Do you think he cares what trousers? Do you think he gives a fuck what type of trousers you're wearing?" So that's if these people were in genuine hardship, you would soon find out that their gender identity would tumble down to the bottom of their list of priorities if they were starving, cold, injured, or gasping for water or medical attention. Obviously, Stephen says from the FEMA director to publicity director are both Bergs. If you get what I'm saying, I think I'm picking up what you're laying down there, Stephen. The mayor, and by the way, I would say, like, if you see mayor, maher, major, mayor, right, mayorkas, right, it means local capo, So the mayor of Asheville is a Berg too. And Berg is sort of Swedish for mountain, but unfortunately they just pick up all these names. They're people who throughout history have just adopted the cloak of others, the hide under the cloak of others. And he was born in Denmark. Bergs, from federal to local government, they're everywhere. It's amazing. There's obviously far more than just roughly 16 million of them in the world. Far, far more. Carl says, malicious bureaucracy standing between good citizens and saving lives. And Lily says, no, she just says an emoji of a bell. I read this on Rod Dreher. That name rings a bell, but I've forgotten who he is. But anyway, heartbreaking indeed, Lily. Maui, I saw there. Reminiscent of the cops blocking the roads in Maui. Exactly. Very comparable. And by the way, I'm glad you brought it up because, yeah, this and the train that overturned in Ohio if you remember, we thought it was unusual. They called it Palestine rather than Palestine, but, again, another coincidence. And I heard there was another chemical train that overturned there somewhere else, or maybe it was in a similar area recently too. Oh, yeah, and if you would have seen Amazing Grace, is that her name, or Really Graceful? She's near enough to, she's in Georgia, but near enough to Atlanta or thereabouts. And she said there was a factory that blew up, a chemical plant that blew up and put noxious chlorine gas into the air. And the government just said, it's probably not going to be very harmful to most people, and left it at that, which is amazing. Yeah, so as Carl says, imagine turning away life-saving help because of health and safety standards. They didn't even say health and safety, just not on a preferred vendors list. So some of our boys in the club mightn't get their profits or as much profits. Windwar says, thank you everyone in the chat to have the chance to be in your company this evening, but I got to go right now. Good night, till next time. Till next time, Windwar. Cheers. Carl says, yes, actively opposed to the life, liberty, and happiness of its own citizens. That's with regard to the government. Yes. And you all had I think you all did. I mean, I never did. I had to learn this stuff later, but maybe I just didn't bother as well. I gave up history in sort of after junior high school. Didn't think it affected me, but also wouldn't have got a huge amount of founding father history of America. Like, we did things like the Louisiana Purchase and stuff like that as part of history. But anyway, in my travels to becoming, long after I left school, a bit more educated on certain things, I've read about the great and noble statements that so many of these founding father types made. Just, I think maybe stay away from it. We know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? About trees of liberty, right? don't outright type it out the whole thing, because we might just get away with this one, lads. We just might, but maybe not. We'll see. Stephen says it wasn't a train; it was a manufacturing facility. Oh no, I'm just talking about, again, maybe about a month or two ago, there was some other train as well that was carrying chemicals, but I'm, like the one in Palestine, Ohio. Yeah, this one in Georgia was a factory or a chemical plant, manufacturing facility that made pool chemicals, right? So they were making the kind of chlorine that goes into pools. But but then really the genuine, the chlorine gas, yeah. But I tell you what, there's different kind of chlorine gas. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter. They might be telling some kind of vague truth that it's. But look, anything in high enough concentrations is not good. Anyway, it made pool chemicals. It's just south of Atlanta. That black, brown, red cloud was insane. Yeah, I would have got right out of there, in the opposite way of whatever way the wind was blowing. Dre here is on Substack, says Lily, and yeah, I'm going to try and get on Substack soon. And no, that's all right, Stephen. I really appreciate what you're saying. My bad, you say. It's okay, I misunderstood. And that's all right. I wasn't clear, and I often skip words. I appreciate you. Okay, going to take a 4 out of 5 of these clips now, and I'll come back to you after that. So this again, if you aren't aware, is a video by, maybe it seems inappropriate, but anyway, Stormmaker on X, or Hellstorm. You'll find him on Odyssey, and the voice you're hearing is that of Nathan Greene.
You guys who have the reach and talk and are very articulate and are able to reach a broader audience, this needs to be your number one focus right now in the propaganda war. I hate to even have my mind go there right now with dead kids still being dug out of the mud. But the fact is, our military has pretty much stood down on our own homeland, on our own turf, and all these towns that are 99.9% white are left to fend for themselves, still don't have fresh water. There's no sewage system in most of these areas now. The French Broad River destroyed every fucking bridge in and out of most of these towns, and our military can't lift a goddamn finger to save our people on our mountains, but we're deploying guys to the Middle East to fight the Jews' wars. So I really, really want guys to articulate that better than I can and run with it. Run with it. Push that shit. That needs to be everybody's main driving focus right now. We can't help our own people, but we're sending shit. Our entire Navy is over there. That needs to be ingrained. This is it. This is how you can win over every fucking lame ass MAGA Israel firster Ukrainer, whatever the fuck. Everyone that doesn't realize what time it is. This is you handing them a clock. This is you handing them the fucking timepiece. They could give a fuck about our people on our soil. And quickly, that region, this Appalachia region I stand on, virtually everyone serves their community and serves their country in the armed forces. Like that like almost everybody's a volunteer fire department guy or rescue or whatever. That's just how it is up here. If they're not doing that, they're farming, or they're doing both. If they're not doing that, they're serving in the military. That's pretty much it. So these are your best fucking Americans in the whitest towns we have left that still do white people things. Notice none of our people are doing the crazy shit. Okay, the one story came out of East Tennessee about the illegals. We have illegals up here near Black Mountain and outside of Boone that have been caught doing the same shit, and it's not being reported. It's unbelievable. But like I said, guys, while you're doing the whole fucking propaganda thing and spreading the message and trying to awaken our people, this is it. This is it. This is what you need to be using, because this is unacceptable. This is absolutely unacceptable. This has got to be the straw that breaks the camel's back with our Zionist-occupied government. They could give a fuck about the people here, and look what they're doing, getting everyone ready to deploy overseas in a war that we have no business being in.
Yeah, so exactly. And as I say, he's not mincing his words, and I'm putting it out there as he said it, unedited, didn't clip anything there. Because it's about high time that people who are still pretending they don't know there's anything untoward, you know, as he says there, are given a timepiece and told what time it is. This is an attack on people. And like, even if we leave out the idea that it's possible for them to, if not generate storms wholesale, but to maybe once they're created, redirect them or push them in a certain direction, and they only have to kind of get lucky once, or they can magnify or amplify existing storms. Even if we leave all those kind of theories out, what they certainly can do, there's no superhuman powers to do this, is to just as already described, be driven by profit motive and a certain amount of contempt, you could say. I mean, people could believe that they just don't like those people. Everybody knows that so many people in places like Seattle have contempt for people in places like Tennessee, North Carolina, and lots of other places in the Heartland or Dixieland or anywhere they consider to be redneck territory. Lots of people in California or in Oregon, right? I'm pronouncing it right, Lily. Sorry, I'm not trying to be, but I've heard some Americans, by the way, say Oregon, but look, I didn't get an opportunity, but I'm doing my best now to remember it's not Oregon, it's Oregon. Anyway, getting back on topic here, we know that a lot of people in coastal cities, New York and whatever, they have all been in a way brainwashed by we know who is putting all these ideas into the head, that these people are not just unsophisticated, but they're inbred and violent, and really it's not just a bad thing if they're all washed away. So then all you have to do then is, with a lot of people, sort of say, listen, there's contracts and you work for the company and the corporation has decided this, and we can't have amateurs, doing this because they might get hurt, and there's health and safety, as somebody says, and all the, and it has sickened me, the amount of my own colleagues in various corporations who would object to this sort of talk, and then only within a few weeks they'd say, no, John, you have to understand, right? I mean, the company has policies and procedures for a reason, right? You can't have anybody just doing whatever they like willy-nilly, Like, we have to follow the procedures, or people might get hurt. And like, we have vendors for a reason, like, when they have been vetted, like, and it's not just like, you don't understand, like, we have logistics teams doing all this, Meanwhile, I would find out that logistics teams are only there to make sure you cannot get what you need. And they'll send you through all these requisitions and red tape, just like in the military, just like in Catch 22, which was written by Joseph Heller. And yeah, he had an early life, but some of them, they understand their own culture and they don't like it, and they think they put it out there, and they just say this is madness. And I would say, MASH, the insanity of the supply line chains and everything else in the army there in Korea. I think, I have a feeling, I wonder, was Catch 22 set in Korea? It might have been. But the madness of it all, how everything is topsy-turvy, doesn't make any sense. And, he was putting it out there. But again, a lot of people would say, he's just making it normalized. But I read that book when I was Catch 22, when I was probably around 15, something like that. And I remember kind of being shocked by it as well. There's a few shocking scenes, there's one particularly shocking scene in the middle of a doorway in a house party. And I remember being shocked by it, the way it was described. And it was described in a kind of a nasty way. So, there's a certain mindset. And a lot of people, I think I'll just finish on this. I know it's a bit of a slight tangent, but a lot of people have realized that through them creating the media, whether it's in literature or whether it's radio or TV or movies or whatever, they have created a culture around us. And I say us, right? First of all, I guess, okay, fine, we'll say it was in America, but that was very quickly exported. And I'll just say to you that I also spent a lot of my, not a lot, well, a significant amount of when I was a teenager or child in France. And their attitude at that time, I'm going back like to sort of 80s, 90s, 80s really. At that time, France did not want to import American culture. And adults and teenagers, some teenagers liked American stuff, but they knew they wanted to keep their own identity. And a lot of Americans would I know that I'll just tell you, Americans are brainwashed to hate French people. That's part of the programming as well. But there's history to do with especially the French in Canada as well, and the way the French Canadians will have treated English speakers. So there's, but that's how they do it. They set us all amongst each other. But now, by the way, like France is different. They tried to resist, but it has become Americanized. Even on the Champs-Elysees, there was a Five Guys on the Champs-Elysees. That's their main street. And, we have a super expensive American burgers, whereas in the past, like only very recently, like French would kind of go, like, we don't want your McDonald's. We don't want your other variations of that. Thank you very much. Certainly not you don't understand how much of an insult it is to have an American fast food joint, even if it's an upmarket fast food joint on the most prestigious street in Paris, the Champs-Elysees, it would be like opening a McDonald's, in the Washington Monument or under Lincoln's seat there, Like it would be like putting advertising or whatever. Anyway, I'll come back. But that's the mindset we're dealing with. Everything has been, turned to some kind of rotten mess. So I'll just come back to here now and check the comments. Yes, I think this. Yeah, Carl says, not only do they not care, they think it's funny. It reminds me of that fella Sam. Yeah, I'll say his name, Sam Hyde. Yeah, I think that's what you're channeling there. Totally illegitimate leadership, says Carl. And Stephen says they've extremely underestimated the vitriol in the blood of our people around here. They've picked the wrong ones to wrong. Yeah, and look, if you hear Stephen or if you hear Nathan Greene's voice there, like he knows what's up. And I would hope that a lot of people who are, of the people of Appalachia, that there'd be very little illusion in front of their eyes about what's going on and who's doing it. And I hope to God that enough people will hear my voice and they'll say things to other people and they'll say, look, I think it's time now. There's no pretense anymore. And I do think they've taken off the masks as well. And they've taken off the gloves. I think they've revealed themselves. Like, I do think things are reaching a crescendo point now. Like, things are, every week that goes by, I hear other people saying it too. Like, I think they're going to pull another major thing now, because they've realized things are basically coming to a fine point. And they're pulling out all the stops. Carl says, we're in no position to make demands, says Stephen. Okay. But, Stephen says, that's the issue. You believe you're in no position, but the reality is if 10 million realized we're in the position to make demands, then you would see levels of scurry thought impossible. Do I wouldn't even say it's 10 million. I would say 10,000. If just 10,000 people, got exercised about it, got animated about it, got mobile and said, yeah, no, that's enough now. Carl says, good luck. I wonder if the boomers thought the same thing after 1994. Everyone was defeated. Oh, listen, will I say his name? I'll tell you this, right? So Eugene was his first name. I will say this then. And Terre Blanche. It's a strange name. Maybe I'll look him up. Did he adopt that name? Was he really born with that name? If he was, God or whoever works in mysterious ways. But it's French for white land, It's very strange, isn't it? But I think once he realized that the public at large, there wasn't enough people who supported him, and they went, no, they balked and they voted. They voted for a temporary amount of what they thought would be peace. And just like, those who would vote for a little more safety and security in exchange for their freedom will lose both and deserve neither. Give up their freedom in exchange for supposed security and safety, will lose both and deserve neither. That's what happened in South Africa. So if they come to you with a referendum saying, here, listen, do you want to effectively by this constitution, sign your collective death warrant or resignation? Don't do as they did in South Africa, because I'm sorry to any South Africans, but anyone who's honest and true will know that anyone who's still talking tough, like they're only talking. Like unfortunately I've met a lot of people in South Africa who talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, unfortunately. But that's not to say that there aren't still good men there who would, if there were enough people. But you know the way it goes, right? Can't really talk any more than that. Lily says, part of Catch-22 was filmed. Oh, do you know what? I'm not sure if I've seen the movie. Maybe I have. I don't know. I can't remember. Part of Catch-22 was filmed near San Carlos, Mexico. We used to use the landing strip to drag race. Wow. Still remnants of the sets. Wow. A lot of people are not discussing on social media. Okay, yeah. I mean, there's only so far you can go. And you always have to imagine that all, like everything you say is being recorded and heard whenever, But I'm saying nothing but the truth, and I'm saying everything I'm saying now, I know that anybody who's listening knows. And if they want to come along someday, well, that's the way it always has to be, Carl says, seeing yourself as a victim is a terminal illness. We are not South Africa or Boers. We are the people who defeated the British military at its height of power with only 3% of our population. Yeah. And look, I'd say the other thing, another time, I keep meaning to go back to, I was going to do a second stream about South Africa and Nelson Mandela quite a while ago, if you remember the first stream on the sort of Mandela effect, as I call it. I'll come back to it and we'll talk about South Africa. I'll leave that for another stream. I'll wrap things up now pretty soon. But just to say that, Boers, or, the sort of farming class community, but you don't actually have to be a farmer. An Afrikaner would be interchangeable with Boer. Somebody of Dutch descent as opposed to British descent, or like Dutch, Germanic, maybe Frankish or French descent. The Boers or the Afrikaners, that's them. A lot of them are highly decent, salt of the earth, real, genuine, authentic, decent people. Just in case anybody might misconstrue what you're saying there by saying, like, we're not like them. But the history of South Africa is there's a lot of British descent people there, and it might be the case, probably is, that more of those would have voted to go along with the Brave New Rainbow Coalition into this unknown future where whites are disenfranchised. I have a feeling, although I don't know the statistic, but I could guess that not so many Afrikaners or Boers voted for that. And I'm not saying that the English or British, because there's some Scots and, who knows wherever else, would have moved down there as well at various points, even long after the Boer Wars in the early 20th century or turn of the 19th to 20th century. I said I wouldn't get into it, but I just want to say, I know you're not saying this, but a lot of South Africans are very strong-minded, brave, decent, authentic, genuine people. You know what I'm saying? And at one point, South Africa was going to be a rival for the United States, economically and every other which way, productivity, all that sort of stuff. And they could not allow that to happen, because it would have got outside. It would have got out of their control. And I say they, you know who we're talking about. So we'll talk about that another time. Carl says, I'm not at all optimistic about the future. I'm old enough to compare our before with our present and to see the general direction we, the West, are heading. Well, I'll say to you, Carl, things are going to get worse. But I have been through, at least a decade of not wanting to be here anymore, at least. And a huge amount of that was because of demoralization from the fact that I knew that my own people are terrible. Absolutely terrible. So who would you fight for? You understand? That's the most demoralizing thing. And I did learn, by the way, that that's a tactic of war. That's a tactic of war to demoralize people like you and me and everyone else. To make you believe that there's no point in even fighting because there's nobody to fight for. So what would be the point of winning? How could you win if there aren't a people to rescue? But I have found my own way to get over that, and maybe I'll just say to you that in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 generations, the genetics are there. And they might look back and kind of go, all right, so there was just 1 or 2 generations then back who were real cowards and selfish. How did that happen? And maybe, I hope that it will be explained to them how, and how it could happen to anybody if they lose their way. I'm not saying religion needs to be imposed on them, but there needs to be a people with a common moral framework. And they need to be taught integrity and truth. And it doesn't necessarily have to be by religion, but everyone has to be on the same damn page, you know? None of this, everyone's free to do what they want and all opinions are equal and everyone's the same and we're all born perfect. None of that stuff. But in addition, Carl, what you might not know is, or maybe not, you do know this, but maybe you haven't thought about it, but I've really spent a long time realizing and re-realizing this. The main tactic that was used against us was intergenerational warfare. So it doesn't matter if you or I don't see victory in our lifetime. Wanting that is what defeats us. We have to just be willing to hand off our society one step better than the way we found it. Or just to gain some bit of ground in progress and then say, here's how we did it. And pass on those methods to the next generation and be satisfied with that we've played our part. I don't want to go to God and find out if there's a God and my creator or my maker, and he would sort of say, well, why didn't you do anything? You know? Even a pawn who helps another pawn to get a little bit further on the board and helps protect somebody else along the way, that's maybe more than most people do in a lifetime. So I said I'm going to wrap it up. It looks to me like the numbers are dropping off. I heard a click in my headphones there, so I don't know if that's because YouTube is kind of going, right, get this guy off the stage. But we have our 5th installment, and read out the last couple of comments here, and then I'll come back to say goodbye. Carl says the US had massive state support from France. They weren't a couple of good old boys with the deer rifles. And Stephen says, Carl, what you should be noticing is the pendulum has been swinging one way your entire life, but now we have stopped it and are slinging it back. Don't be a doomer. We only lose if we give up. I like that, Stephen. And Lily says, I forgot power. Maybe you're thinking about from your phone, and that's why you're only back now because you ran out of power. Okay. Okay, we're going to have a look now at Stephen. I'll read this last one. Stephen says, great stream and appreciate your attention to the area and for speaking out, my friend. Thanks, Stephen. And as I say, I feel an obligation. I know that there's only, according to StreamYard, now only 3. There was probably a maximum of around 10, but only 3 listening now. But maybe some people will listen on the playback as well. I can't say, oh, I've only got a few people listening to me, so what does it matter? Everybody has to do what they can do. It's a cumulative effort. If you don't think you've got a good voice, just speak. It comes with practice. If you don't think you can write, just start writing. Write down a sentence, a word, whatever. Do what you can. Don't stay silent. Or, even a physical action, such as making something better about your own little locality. That could be something as well. Just helping somebody. You don't have to change the world in one go. Right, we'll have a look at, as I say, part 5 now of Nathan Greene, his voice, and maybe you'll hear 1 or 2 other people's voices. And this was put together, as I say, by a fellow on Odyssey. Oh God, his name is Storm Maker. Is that it? And yeah, that's what he's called on X and on Odyssey. Hurricane, maybe? Something like that. Anyway, Storm Maker. Right, here we go. Part 5 now, and then I'll come back to say goodbye.
And like I said, guys, I got to go, but I really appreciate you guys letting me break into here and get the word out. I posted it up in the Purple Pill, Not all these organizations are like 100% our guys or whatever. Okay, cool, but they are doing the work on the ground right now. So I really appreciate
Nathan,
it.
if you get time Wednesday, if you want to DM me, I could have you come on the show for 30 minutes and kind of give a rant of what's going on if you're interested and you got the time. No pressure, but
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure my DMs are open for you anytime.
Right, thank you. Thank you for your service.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Among the hardest hit, tonight remains largely cut off from relief, frustrating residents.
Nobody's going to help us. I don't know what we're going to do.
Do you have any faith in the federal response here?
No.
Ricky and Devonna Brown's auto shop has been in this location for 30 years.
This is devastating. This is hard to see. This is hard to come and look at. This is your whole life right here. And it's this old building to somebody, but to us, this is our life.
Drop-off of communication has left relatives of missing locals pleading with officials for information on their loved ones.
What do you say to the residents who feel that the local and federal response wasn't fast enough following this storm?
So first, people are working around the clock. What we want to tell people is that more help is on the way and help is continuing.
In North Carolina, every single county has been impacted. The western part of the state by catastrophic flooding, the eastern half by heavy rains and tornadoes.
Do you have the manpower right now to handle this response?
So this is a multi-federal agency response, which is why we're bringing in people from across the federal government.
FEMA says they'll deploy 1,200 first responders to the state to support relief efforts. Relief that can't come soon enough for towns like Boone, 2 hours north of Asheville, where mudslides rip through neighborhoods. 100 miles south, the river in Henderson County reached 30 feet.
Oh my God.
Smashing all previous flood records. Rivers and lakes jam with debris. Back in Asheville, residents don't know where to even begin.
It's a lot of work, destroyed a lot of things that I loved, of course, and my business and my job and my livelihood.
Right, so there you are. And it's a very well put together video, especially there you saw the symbology of it at the end. I mean, the poor woman, I don't know how she wasn't crying. She was sort of laughing ironically, saying, a lot of things I loved there, all my possessions, all gone. Ah, well, what can you do? And my business and my livelihood. Well, I can't imagine having adjusted mentally to the point where I'm able to speak to a camera and camera crew from the news and say, almost like, yeah, well, what are you going to do? I guess that's life, sort of thing. And then, as you saw at the end, the American flag, the great, symbolize the American dream. Well, it's over. It's drowned in a puddle now. And I think I'm not. Some people still get offended if I would say something that they go, "No, America's not over." Whatever. Like, I understand. Look, just like the Twin Towers, they build these things so they can tear them down, and in the process tear us down. And while we can't say exactly what's in the mind of every man, and and I know that a lot of people kind of look at the founding fathers and say, were they atheists? Were they deists? Were they Freemasons? Does that mean they were bad? Did they always have an evil plan? Did they set us up to fail? Look, I'm not sure, and maybe nobody can say for absolute certain. But what am I trying to say here? Nations were created. All of our nations were created relatively recently. Even if you think Europe is older, I mean, the lines were redrawn so many times. I mean, really, since the 20th century, so many lines were redrawn. Countries came into existence, went out of existence in my lifetime only in Europe. So they do these things so that we get not just emotionally attached, but we feel like that our very lives and our own existence is tied into the existence of that concept of that nation. And if that nation gets destroyed, then we ourselves are destroyed. That's how they do it. You could call it magic, or you could call it a sort of hypnotic psychological trick. So we kind of had to, like that lady, we kind of have to make peace with everything we thought that we were standing on, or that we knew, or that we thought we knew was built around us, and that was solid, unmovable, would always be there. When it's gone, you kind of have to say, okay, well, who am I really? What am I made of? And that's why it's so terrifying for so much of the normies. They don't know who they are. They saw some character on a TV screen and said, I know, I'll try and emulate that character. That'll be my persona. Very few people, I'm going to say, I'm getting there, maybe not fully there, but like, I wouldn't be able to do this if I was a false person. I try to be my authentic self. And I think I think all of you will relate to that, because you see so many people were fake in 2020, just going along. They might have been all full of talk, but they go along with things. And so, I can hear the authenticity in other people's voices, like Nathan Greene there. And we're all finding each other and recognizing each other. We're not saccharine. We're not artificial smiles. We are who we are, and we say what we mean. And so when they are tearing down everything around us, I mean, now it's Appalachia, but it'll be wherever we are. There's no safe place. They're coming for us all in one way or another. So we kind of make peace with that. We say, all right, well, we'll find you where you find us, or I'll meet fate where it finds me. And I'm not really that worried about anything. Not going to try and get myself into particular trouble. Not trying to hasten events, but I'll take things as they come. And this is where fate meets free will, I suppose, and where self-determination meets destiny. So read out the last few comments here, and then we'll wrap it up. I did that one already. And that one. Okay, so Stephen says, great stream, and appreciate your attention to the area and for speaking out, my friend. Thanks, Stephen. Lily says, it's good to share info. Yes, it is. And I like, you do too, and I appreciate it. Carl says, in inverted commas here, it's the quote, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. The most frightening, how many is that? Is it 9 words? But anyway, I think Reagan did say that as a joke. He was a very good, jokey kind of orator. I'm losing my voice now. Just about I got to wrap it up. Excuse me. Okay, Lily says, I have persuaded more people to be prepared. So that's something. Very good, Lily. And I know that, well, I'm just assuming that most people you speak to are very middle-class normies. I said something to you, or wrote something, I think it was on one of your videos recently, and the comment went, and I thought, okay, that's probably YouTube. But then I thought maybe you didn't like that comment yourself. But it was, I think it was you anyway. But it was along the lines when I was assuming when you were videoing and you're showing the guy with the yacht in Puget Sound. And look, maybe they're lovely people, and he earned everything, right? The people that I had to interact with, all of them basically, if it was a choice between doing the right thing or saying the truth, they might say that they were full of principles, but it all immediately went out the window. Not if they were threatened with anything, but just if there could be a chance of possibly not even saying the wrong thing, but even being seen with the wrong person, and then somebody else seeing them with who was the wrong person, that they might not any longer be invited to go to a party on somebody's yacht or in and around Puget Sound. Do you see what I'm saying? And I have feelings of disgust towards all these people who are full of them. You know the kind, the virtue signalers, and the people who, have all the right opinions, but they change depending on the context wherever they are. They're not the same person. Do you see what I'm saying? And so they're not real people. That's the bad taste I have in my mouth with those kind of people. You understand? Just thought I have the opportunity to say to you there, even I'm losing my voice. But last thing I'll say to you is, tomorrow, 3:15 p.m. Central US time, you can work it out from there, or 22:15 Central European time. I'll be going live. Probably the fellow whose voice you might have heard if you saw the other video I put out today there. He goes by Sage, or Arminius Sage on YouTube. And maybe a couple other people will join us as well. And any of you can as well. If you come into the space, I'll advertise it by a community post, assuming that my account is still here. after this stream gets processed. But if my stream is gone, it's gone. And you can find me on Odyssey, Eternal Extrapolations. And on Rumble, I'm trying to post a bit more there. But Odyssey has features that Rumble doesn't have. One great one being I can put MP3s up there directly, and you can download them from there directly. Even if the site is a bit slow, you can just download the MP3 and play it then when you've got it in its entirety, you know. So that gives me the ability to put things up there that I've recorded immediately without having to spend time rendering with pictures and video and all that thing to go along with it. Anyway, that's about it. So you can find me tomorrow on Twitter, live spaces at 3:15 p.m. Central Time, United States, and 22:15 European Central Time. And I might go for a couple of hours, but we'll see how the conversation goes. Anyone can come in and listen, and then if they want, they can request to speak if you want as well. It's an audio only medium. You can't have any video, so might suit some people who might think, oh, I don't want to be seen, you know, but you can use your voice and, you know, don't have to worry about what you might be thought of. Everybody is completely friendly and understanding that if it's your first time, they'll make allowances if you lose your train of thought or whatever. We all do that, you know. Okay. So Stephen says the saccharine smilers. Exactly, Stephen. And I'll just count it out now in my mind as I'm saying the last few things. In case there's any last comment there, because there's always about a 20-second delay on StreamYard. So with that, I'll end with maybe a few more of the scenes of those people who were talking. Remember the story I was telling about, or the account of the people in the Florida Keys when they had the needed for the relief efforts. So there you have it on screen now. There's those people. And, you know, that's the citizens who did what the government not only refused to do, but was trying to prevent others from doing. And if you would like to send any goods or whatever you think you might need, go to Nathan Greene's page. That's Nathan, and his surname is spelled Greene with an extra E at the end, Greene. Find him on X and go from there. He's got a lot of information in his profile page. And I'm not sure if there's an easy way for me to skip. I think there is. Oh, no, there isn't. I'm sorry. I've pre-uploaded this and I cannot skip forward to the addresses here. But if you want the addresses, have a look in the description. You'll find a lot of links there. In the description, I've preloaded it there. You'll find Nathan's page. You'll find other people's pages, and you'll find a lot of the stuff that I talked about here. And I did 2 videos during the week with some of Nathan's voice. And you'll see in the videos there, you'll see the addresses from North Carolina and for Tennessee as well. If you want to send boxes by whatever, you know, UPS or FedEx. But Nathan probably has an idea of which is best, or by Amazon, or if you wanted to drive them to one of the pickup locations there. Okay, so that's about it. I'll say thanks again. Cheers, Carl. Take care of yourself and everyone else. And hopefully, I'll talk to you again before too long.